Good afternoon, everybody.
Hi guys, another week.
A Wednesday lunchtime live.
Yeah, we hope you're well. What are we talking about today, Lisa?
We're going to be talking about, well, I'm not sure what you titled this, Sam, but we're going to be talking about filling groups or workshops, because we, as many people will know, just launched our school this month for coaches. And so we had our first full-day workshop yesterday. And we spent some time this morning just really reflecting on the day. There was a lot of fun, and I slept like an absolute baby. I honestly slept longer, I think, last night than I have for a year. Just like real feeling of contentment and like happily knackered.
Yeah.
So we just thought that we would share some of our insight into what it's been like, the process involved in putting on a group or a workshop or something like that. So we're going to do it in two parts. So this first part is purely around the enrollment, because enrolling into something like this, and it doesn't need to be a year-long program when I say something like this, enrolling into a group or a workshop with multiple people is a process. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to give you some space to hear our insights and take what's going to be useful for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk about this in our school as well, don't we? I mean, it came up a little bit yesterday, and it's going to be at some point a real topic of ours to talk about. You know, how do I get people into my group? Like, how do I get people into my program? Like you say, when you're enrolling. So yeah, we wanted to offer what we know and what we've experienced and how we've enrolled into our school, and also the events that we've done, right? Because we've done 2 workshops leading up to that as well.
Yeah.
Just to offer that to you guys, because if it's something you've ever thought about doing, if it's something you want to do, if it's something that's on your mind, then there'll be some value in here for you to go and implement.
Yeah. So I was trying to see this live, so I can, if anyone's watching this, but I can't see it on my.
I've got it. I'd suggest as well you don't, Lisa, because your internet's it's fine, but if you try and do any more, you're gonna turn into a robot.
I'm asking too much of my computer. Okay, well, if there's anyone watching, let us have your questions. Or if you're watching on the replay and you've got a group or a workshop coming up, or one that you want to put on, you just don't know how to do it, then get your questions in the comments as well, and we'll loop back and answer them.
Yeah, I've got it here, so if anyone comes in, I've got it covered.
Perfect. So the first thing that I was going to share was like giving yourself enough time. That was something that we really saw. And I remember when I started out, I used to do meetup workshops, and I probably didn't give myself enough time for that. So there wasn't really any proactive enrollment into the workshops. It was literally, I would announce it in Meetup, and then whoever saw it through Meetup, they would show up. And then I started to see, you get a lot of no-shows. So I played around with like, what if I charge for this workshop? Does that like mean people are going to show up? Or what if I message people ahead of the workshop to say that you're looking forward to seeing you and create some engagement that way? So I tried lots of different things. But what I've really seen now is like creating enough space and enough time to set up your event, like put the details out there. You don't have to have all of the details mapped out in terms of the content, but an understanding of what am I doing this for? How are people going to leave the workshop? How do I want them to feel? And what are they going to be able to go away with to practically apply? And if you have that, that's enough to announce your workshop. And are you like, just this is my own personal preference, but I would say like give yourself probably, if you're doing a bigger group program, you probably want to give yourself at least 3 months to enroll into that. And if you're doing a free meetup workshop, I might still allow around 4 weeks, and you can then start to get into the practice of what is it like to really proactively enroll into a free event, into a workshop. So I would still give myself around 4 weeks if I was going to do something like that.
I'd say, and I think especially if you're new to this, like I've noticed as we've gone on and as we've kind of created a community and we have a bigger network of people that have context around what we do, there's we can, if we want to, have slightly less time to enroll into workshops and stuff, because there's that pool of people there. But if you're really new to this, give yourself that chance to connect and to create those connections and have that pool of people that want to join.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse than putting yourself under pressure and then not feeling like you've got the time to really slow it down and get people into your program, because it does take time to enroll people, even into something free. It can do.
Yeah, and it's different to enrolling into a one-on-one practice, because you could serve someone one-on-one, you can invite them into a conversation, and then there's no deadline, there's no time limit, so you could continue to do that, and it could be like a year from now that they're like, right, I'm ready, let's do this. So you could have served them throughout the year before they've been like, yeah, I'm in. But when you have a group or a workshop or something with a definite date, you don't have that luxury of staying connected in that creation of a private client. So there's a definite date, and this workshop is happening on that date. So it can feel really different to enrolling into just solely a one-on-one practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Hence why that space is so important. Exactly, I couldn't agree more. And I think on that as well, what came to my mind was, I remember in the early days, when I was enrolling into a group or a workshop, I would kind of put this really cool content together, like, this is what it is, this is what it's about, and then put it out there and be like, cool, fingers crossed, let's go. And they kind of often would just be, there'd be loads of likes, and they'd be like, oh, this looks great, but there would be very little people actually wanting to do it or signing up, or I thought there would be very little people wanting to do it or signing up. And it wasn't until I saw the similarities of enrolling into a group with the one-to-ones, which was, really connecting with people, making it personal, sending out some personal invites and really slowing it down with people, that actually then people really started to show up and attend. So I think there's something to be said here around, I mean, we've done this with our school, but there's something to be said around really making it personal, taking the time to make that connection, to write somebody a personal message, say, I really think this is for you and here's why. What do you say? Totally okay to say no, but here's why, and so that's been really pivotal. I mean, certainly for me in my early business, but now for us, it's how we fill all our groups, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the challenges that we ran one before Christmas, we ran one after Christmas. There was a hell of a lot of energy that went into that. Huge amount of energy. Like, we were connecting. That's how we spent our days. Like, we mapped out that time in our calendar. It was like, right, we want to do it over these weeks. So for the weeks prior to that, we're going to not do anything else. We're going to serve our current clients. And the focus really is around connecting with people and spending time thinking about, like, who would really benefit from being in a challenge like this. And then personal connections, personal invitations to people to say, just like you said, Sam, like, based on what we know about you, this might be something really valuable to you. If you want in, you're welcome in, let us know. And it's okay if it's not.
Yeah, totally.
There's a lot of energy that goes into that. And it's really important that we share that, because again, it's like on social media, you can be drawn into the concept of, this is easy, this is simple, like, I've put my stuff out there, no one's replying, so I must be doing something wrong. Maybe my content's wrong. Maybe I shouldn't do something on overwhelm. Maybe I should do something on the inner critic. Like, we start to dabble in things where there's nothing wrong with them in the first place, and we just don't know the principles of strong enrollment yet.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. And it's also worth mentioning, I mean, we had we took 5 months to recruit for our school, essentially 5 months. Yeah. And the reason we took 5 months was because, I mean, this has to be said, because what we don't want people thinking is that, oh my God, I can't do that, I'm just starting, or here is where I am. So I want to be really clear that you work where you're at, right? You work where you're at in your business. And we took 5 months because we wanted a good amount of people in this group, and it was close to a 5-figure fee to be in this school for a year, right? So what we've noticed is that generally, the more we're asking, the more we're charging, the higher the fee, the longer we can give ourselves, so that we've got time to recruit and time to enroll into it. But if you're at a place, on the opposite end of that, where you're really starting out and you haven't run a group program before, have a think about the numbers and the fees that you're comfortable with, that you want to start with, that's going to get you in the game. And then think about how many people you might want to serve, because it's easy to say, I want 30 people in there. But actually, in reality, when you come to looking at that, it's like it's having you retract and be like, oh my God, that actually feels really uncomfortable. So think of a number that really feels good to you, that's going to get you on the field and get you in the game. I think that's really important. You know, it's more important to get in the game and get into it and get into action than it is to try and kind of overachieve something that's going to have us just being like, oh my God, this is too much.
Yeah, totally. And that, I mean, my first like paid group program, I think I had like it was maybe 6 or 8 people in there. So it was a number that I felt comfortable to show up to, right? It's a number that I'd been in groups of that size, and I could see 90 minutes works well for a group this size, and that gives people the space to share. So there was like education behind my choices.
Yeah.
Around like what's going to have me show up, what's going to have me feel safe enough to do this and not put it off for another day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also want to talk about as well, like the success of a group really starts with the enrollment of it. So when you're doing the enrollment, you really want to be showing leadership and professional self when you're enrolling into that group. And I would say do this even if it's something that you're doing for free, because it strengthens your muscle as a professional coach. So you want to get into the habit of, if you're having conversations with people, to let them know about the workshop or the group, you want to be stepping into that role of professional coach now to build that muscle. And so you, like, things that Sam and I share, like, it's a requirement. The program is this long. It's a requirement to be at all the sessions. Let's go through the dates now, because we want to slow it down and know, like, are you going to be here for all these sessions? Because if you're not, it's not a fit. Like, that happens at the enrollment stage, and what that does is it stops you from starting that group and then having a ton of, like, 1 or 2 people who don't show up or who show up late, and they start to, that culture then starts to breed. And then you end up in a position where you're coming to us with questions like, I can't get people to engage, this person's disrupting, they're always turning up 20 minutes late, this person's ghosted on me. So all of those problems can be potentially resolved up front when you're doing the enrollment into it.
Yeah.
And the same with how deep you want to go as well, because a lot of coaches can say, like, I don't feel like they're going to open up as much in a group. And I know I've said this before, right? And yes, there will be times where there's particularly vulnerable things that just doesn't feel like you can share in a group setting. But again, the enrollment piece is the opportunity to say to them, we're going to go deep in this group. This isn't a group that just scratches the surface. We're going to go really, really deep in this group. Are you okay with that? So you do that in the enrollment so that people know, like, they have the setting. When the group starts, they know this is going to be a vulnerable space, and I'm safe there and I'm secure there, so I can share there. And that's how you get to go and create really deep impact in a group setting as a coach.
Yeah, what you're speaking to there, Lisa, and this is a really important point, I think, is that, you know, we've seen even some of the most established coaches that we're working with or have worked with or working alongside have not done some of these things, right? So they haven't created their agreements, they haven't got their strong foundation, their strong container for it. And they kind of later on, they start to experience the issues that can create. It doesn't always, but it really can very, very likely create some sort of issue along the line. So, you know, even if you're a more of established coach and you're doing group programs, that's something to really hone in on and get really clear on, because that will serve you, not just serve you and your bank account, but serve the people in the community, because they're going to be the ones that have the transformation as a result.
Yeah.
Just kind of really helps strengthen that leadership in that process. And that, I think that's something I've seen is particularly important, you know, especially the coaches who, like you said, are kind of, they're doing their program, they're starting to notice these trends. Oh, this person just, I get that occasionally, they're not showing up, or they're not really present, or, you know, these people are asking these questions and they're kind of ones we've already covered or whatever. It's just, that's something definitely to reflect on, is how are we creating that?
I want to be really clear as well about this happens in the enrollment. Mm-hmm. Right? So you can do it again when the group starts to really remind people of the container. I would strongly recommend doing that. And if you're doing like a day workshop, you can still do that. The first 20 minutes, how do we want to work together today? What are the ground rules that we're gonna come from?
Yeah.
I want to be really clear. We're not talking about setting the agreements at the beginning of the group when everyone said yes and they're paid and they're in. That's not the first time you do it. To create a really strong group, it's done in the involvement.
Yeah.
Even if it feels like they're going to say no because they can't make all these dates, okay, maybe it's not for them this time.
Yeah.
That's okay. But I would encourage you to consider that's better than having someone who turns up one week, does it the next, and then other people are starting to see that, and that community isn't as strong as it could be.
That what you just shared there, we talked about in school yesterday, didn't we? That intention piece of what is my intention for this person? If it's to serve them to the very best of my ability, that might look like, you know, if you can't make all the sessions, now is not the right time to do this. Because it also gives them the opportunity to think to themselves, okay, what is my priority here? You know, it encourages them to enroll into their own process. Whereas if our mind is on, oh, I really want this money, I really need this money, and that's our focus, then that isn't necessarily going to serve you or the client. Yeah. And I know that sounds really brutal sometimes. It's like, yeah, but I'm a coach, I need money. Yeah, I get that. But the alternative is, okay, where else can I find money? If that's how I'm going to be running my business as a result, where else can I create money instead? And that's a different subject. It's just something that was on my mind. Yeah.
And the other thing as well, like if you again, I want to say there's so many different ways that you can run workshops, groups, that you can work with multiple people. So what we're sharing, the context is going to be king, you know, because if you're doing a one-day workshop and it's free, then you're not going to spend 5 months recruiting into it, right? You're just not. So context is king. And what I do want to say as well, because we're going to talk, so this, I think, did I mention this is going to be in 2 parts? So today we're talking about involvement. The next part is going to be around the actual, like what goes into a workshop, what goes into the program. So we're going to talk about a little bit more about content. And what I want to say is the content, that piece will get easier the more you know about the people before they end up in the group. So again, like Sam and I have slowed down conversations with people. We set up 2 challenges. We did like a month's worth of challenges, and we had individual private conversations with people to really get to know, where are you at? What's your reality? Where are you heading towards? What's your sticking points? Tell me about your inner world. What goes on for you there? What do you wish you'd have done now that you wanted to do last year and you've still not done? Like, we want to know everything about people, because that's going to give us real insight into what needs to go into the program. So I want to offer that as well. Like, it's not just about strengthening the enrollment while we have these conversations to make sure that the people's commitment's there, or we can go deep enough, but it's about understanding like what's going to be of service to people. Yeah. And then we can create something that feels really powerful and really impactful. And there's a degree of certainty, doesn't quite feel quite the right word, but there's a degree of confidence.
Yeah.
What we deliver is going to be really relevant for the people in the group.
Yeah, definitely. It's something that I think yesterday, I can't remember what it was. It might have been when we were in our school, but what was talked about was, often we can go out into the world and have an idea of what the program needs to look like, right? So it's like, I've got this program, this is the problem, this is what it does, yada yada yada, right? So it's done. But that's our idea, and it's not necessarily going to be in service to the people that really need it, because it's our thing, right? And that can sometimes, when we're enrolling into it, feel a bit like a square peg in a round hole. So why is no one signing up to this? And again, that could be because of that. It's like, are you really listening? Are you getting to know these people enough to know what would really serve them? So yeah, that's all I wanted to add on the end there. I think it's
it's probably the most powerful enrollment tool. Listening.
Yeah.
Because you can go in, like, imagine, Sam, if you said to me, right, I want to buy a car. I just bought a car, which is why this is at the forefront of my mind. So you come to me and you say, I want to buy a car. And I start banging on about how brilliant this red Mini is. And I'm like, oh my God, you should definitely, this red Mini, it drives so sweet. I could say a lot now because I know a lot about cars over this last few weeks. Like I could go on this big spiel about why Sam should definitely buy this red Mini. And he might actually be like, I need something super spacious for my family. Whereas if I'd have just slowed down and listened, I could have been like, hey, you need to be in this car. Like I know the perfect car for you.
Yeah, let's find one.
Is that what you're looking for? Yeah.
Mm.
So rather than, like you say, rather than craft out an idea of what we want to do or what people might want, slow down and listen first.
Yeah.
And then the content will create itself.
Yeah, totally.
Let's leave it there, shall we? Or do you have
any final thoughts?
No, I'm all out of thoughts.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm empty. I'm just asking you. Great, guys. Well, have a lovely rest of your day. If you've got questions, put them in the comments. If you are thinking about running a program, or if you are running a program, if you're somebody that is running a program, they're running into issues, then put it in the comments and let's start a conversation. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day.
Next week.